Yo, what's up? My name is Patrouski, and welcome to my guide for the best new beginner player money-making methods in PokeMMO in the year 2025. Now, I'm going to be honest, a lot of these methods have changed dramatically versus a few years ago. I am a big fan of catching Pokemon for profit, aka getting a bunch of cheap Pokeballs and going to a route in catching Pokemon and then selling them for the green IV, aka the 1x31s that they may have. Yeah, you used to be able to go catch Pidovs or Pidgeys over on things like Route 1 in Unova or in Kanto and make around 200,000 Pokeyen per hour, back when these guys were 6 to 8k. Unfortunately, as you can see, they are no longer 6 to 8k. Now, this has happened due to many market changes, such as more mysterious balls being put into the game and opened and bringing more good IV Pokemon into the game at a quicker rate, as well as things like alphas. If you're a new player, you don't have to worry about all of that. All you need to understand is that those methods are a little outdated and I don't recommend them. They'll still do decently, but they're not going to make as much Pokeyen. They're going to make a lot more effort than other things on today's list. Now, that's not to say catching Pokemon for profit is always bad. There are exceptions. There's just much less options nowadays comparatively to 3 years ago. Because of these massive market changes, I also define what is a new player a little differently comparatively to 3 years ago. Players have also gotten a lot better since then, so we're able to progress more quickly out of the new player position. So I'm defining a new player as someone who has at least beaten one region and somewhere between 1 to 4. A new player is someone who hasn't completed all 5 regions yet within the game, but does have a few regions under their belt and is looking to make some Pokeyen to test out some of the endgame content later on. If it's not obvious, this list is also just my personal opinion, informed by over 9,000 hours of play, but if you have your own suggestions for beginner money-making methods, please leave them in the comments. The more options, the better. When playing MMOs, it's all about having the most amount of methods that are enjoyable and fun to you that don't let you get bored. You do not always need to be doing the best method and making the most amount of Pokeyen per hour. If you try to do that, the odds are you'll end up burning out. Now, some people enjoy that, and if that's you, more power to you. But most of us need variety, myself included. But that's enough preamble while wandering around the resort area. Let's go ahead and jump into today's list. And feel free to use the timestamps in the description to navigate today's video. Alright, for money making method number 1, we are going to be fossil farming over in the Sinnoh region, starting over here at Hearthome City. Now, this is probably the highest requirement method on this list. So if you see this and this looks overwhelming, don't worry. There's tons of other methods that I can show you guys here very, very soon, but you do need a few things for this. Number 1, you need a frisk Pokemon with the move Thief. I recommend some sort of hidden ability, high level Dusclops or Dusknoir. You can also use Bayonet, which is used in other strategies. However, the problem with Bayonet is that it's not really tanky enough. With this strategy, you will actually be taking some damage along the way, and you really want a high level tanky Pokemon. As you can see here, that you don't need 31s. Don't worry about the green numbers. Those are overpriced and overwanted. But 25 plus in HP and defense is nice. And then EV trained 2v2 HP, 2v2 defense, and then with an impish nature or any sort of plus defense nature. Could even be bold, honestly. Your Thief is probably going to do enough damage, or you'll be fine. Go ahead and run bold if you really need to for the strategy. You just need a plus defense nature and the nice big bulky Dusclops. So that's step number 1, is a Thief Frisk Pokemon. Step number 2 is a Damp Pokemon in case you run into a shiny. It's super important. There's tons of Pokemon here that can learn self-destruct. We are dealing with rock Pokemon, Geodudes, etc. Also, I recommend there is a very small chance here for shiny Spiritomb. Very unlikely. I think it's a multi-thousand hour hunt on average if you were to actually sit here and go for it, but very unlikely, but it's possible. For Spiritomb, you could set up some sort of memento, imprison, weird Pokemon, or you could just Master Ball it. I think this is one of those Pokemon. Just make sure you have a Master Ball before going to the spot. This is one of those Pokemon where, if you run into it, just Master Ball it. The odds of you running into it are so low. As a shiny, of course, not just any Spiritomb, but if you run into a shiny Spiritomb, you're lucky enough, you might as well Master Ball it. And then next up, you also need a Pokemon with Rock Smash or a Rock Smash Ocarina. Thankfully, your Damp Parasect or your Damp Quagsire, any sort of damn Pokemon probably can learn Rock Smash. I have a Rock Smash Ocarina, of course, but there's tons of ways to teach Rock Smash to a Pokemon pretty easily here. Rock Smash Ocarina kind of saves you a spot, but you don't really need to. Next up, I recommend a catching Pokemon, a high level, level 100 Breloom, level 100 Smeargle, something that is pretty tanky and pretty strong, just in case you need to catch a shiny or catch something in that regard. Keep in mind, if it's a shiny Geodude or, Self-Destruct Mon, your damp Pokemon has to stay in the fight. If you switch out, it'll allow them to explode. I know that's a common question I get. So let's just go ahead and head over to the editing Patrouski here. Also, make sure to bring a defog Pokemon or some sort of defog ocarina. I know a lot of you guys watch these videos alongside me and do it alongside me, so I don't want anybody to show up here without defog like I did. Alright, and the first thing you want to do before heading over to the spot is fly over to Veilstone City, because Hardhome was actually entirely incorrect. So please make sure to fly over to Veilstone City. Sorry about that. And then you want to head south over here. We are heading off over to Sendoff Spring, and then eventually heading over to Turnback Cave. It's a little bit of a trek. I recommend popping like a super repel. You don't need to pop a max repel necessarily, but a super repel of sorts is quite nice. The nice thing is, once you're at this spot, there are so many rocks to smash. You can pop a baby repel here. You'll pretty much never run out. Once you're at the spot, you'll really never run out of rocks to smash. You could stay here infinitely as long as you have the HP and PP to be able to do so. So if you wanted to, picking up some Lepa berries to sustain your thief, or some potions to sustain your fossil farmer itself, go ahead, pick them up. You could be here infinitely. Also, it seems like you do need defog, so I'll go ahead and edit it in to make sure to ask you guys to bring that, because I don't want anybody showing up without that. Now, once you are here, you can go ahead and run around the rooms and just smash rocks to your heart's delight as soon as you wear out your repel. Sometimes, I think they've changed it back and forth. You used to not be able to get rock smash encounters with repels active. You might be able to now, but force of old habit for me, I'm going to go ahead and just run out that repel. And then I'm going to go ahead and start smashing rocks. Now, if you smash rocks here, you have a chance to encounter wild Pokemon, and then those wild Pokemon have a chance to encounter fossils. Sounds not that great, or have fossils. It sounds not that great, but you would be surprised. This method can make you anywhere from 200, I'd say on the bottom, the lower end, on the unlucky end, like 200,000 Pokeyen per hour, up to like 250,000 Pokeyen per hour. Fossils are in really high demand in PokeMMO, especially for those late game shunters. Fossils have a lot of the rare shinies in PokeMMO, things like Shieldon or things like Cranidos, these rare fossil shiny Pokemon, and people want to hunt for them. And the best way to hunt for them is to essentially just buy a bunch of fossils off the GTL and pop them over and over and over again. Skull fossils right now at the recording of this video cost around 12,000 to 11,000 Pokeyen. You also have things like the, what's the Shieldon fossil? The armor fossil, there you go, around 8,000 Pokeyen. These things are really hard to meet the demand for. There is so much demand. This is one of those money-making methods where there is so much demand for the fossils. It's pretty hard for them to ever go that much down. This will always be a good money-making method as long as people care about rare shiny hunting and as long as things like shiny wars are happening. I always advocate for, as someone who participates in shiny wars myself and spends a lot of money on these fossils, one of the best ways to make Pokeyen and PokeMMO is selling fossils during shiny wars. People will buy them up. People want to compete. Shiny hunters are crazy, like myself. They are willing to spend any amount of Pokeyen just to compete and to get shinies and to flex their stuff. There is an example of a Frisk popping off. I'll go ahead and go for a Thief and get the item from this Graveler, hoping for any sort of fossil. You can get an Everstone as well. That's fine. Thankfully, we're ghost types, so the explosions won't chip us down. We simply can dodge those and get out of the fight easier. Thank you, Graveler. Good example of why you need a damp Pokemon, though. Everstones are also worth 5k a piece. They're not nearly as good as the fossils, of course, but they're about 5k a piece, depending on the market, anywhere from like 4 to 6k, I would say, 8k maybe at certain times, but they're solid Pokeyen as well. But the beauty of this method is that selling items is easy. Why I recommend this to new players is that it's so much easier to price check items than it is to price check Pokemon. When you price check a Pokemon, I always compare it to price checking something like a used car, right? To price check a used car properly, you have to ask for water damage, when was the last oil change, when was the last tires changed, you know, how many miles on it, has it ever had any like infrastructure damage? If you can tell I don't know anything about cars, it's kind of obvious. There you go. But I'm assuming it's difficult. I'm assuming there's a lot of things you have to ask to properly evaluate a used car. A Pokemon's very similar. You have to ask what's the nature, what are the IVs, what's the level, what are the EVs, where was it caught, does it have an interesting catch date, an interesting catch location, are there any particle effects on it? There's a ton of things that factor in to a Pokemon's price check, which can be difficult for new players to learn. It's overwhelming as well, but so the point is, items are easy to price check. You just check up the item. All items are the same. All skull fossils are the same. You just look it up on the GTL and you sell it off. Easy peasy. This method is also super chill and brain dead once you get here and once you get going. Once again, you can literally infinitely camp here. What happens is if you clear a room full of rocks, there's a rare little Spiritomb encounter as well. If you don't have a Spiritomb for the Pokedex, go ahead and catch one as well. They're very, very good for the Pokedex. It's one of the most difficult Pokemon for a lot of people to get to complete their Pokedex, aside from Beanos. But if you run out of rocks, all you got to do is go to the next room. It's that simple. It's that easy. And you get infinitely spawning rocks. You could sit here all day if you wanted to. So the requirements for this one are kind of high, but the rewards are pretty amazing. And whenever you're done fossil farming, now it's called turn back cave for a reason. If you get stuck or you want to leave the cave, simply turn back and go back into the door from which you last came, and you should be sent back to the entrance or close to the entrance. Let's head through this door. And there we go. Now we can go ahead and leave the cave. I should be heading through this main door here. Yeah, we can keep following along. We can head out through here. There we go. Essentially, turning back is the easiest way to get out of turn back cave. Let's head on to method number 2. Next up is going to be EV training and XP training Pokemon for Pokeyen. Now, this usually entails buying some cheap Pokemon off the GTL with decent stats, looking up something like 20 plus in all of the stats that it needs. Let's say for a physical Pokemon, we would look up everything 20 plus except for the special attack, heading over to the adamant nature and just seeing what the cheapest Pokemon are that actually use those stats. This is probably one of the toughest parts for a newer player. You might not know what Pokemon need these stats. Litwick is a special attacker. It does not need the physical stats, which is why it's so cheap. However, things like this Excadrill, which cost about 18,000 Pokeyen, this Magikarp for 16k, even this Quillfish and Golem, which are NU powerhouses at the moment, for around 18k a piece. You could buy those. If you really wanted to dig deep, you could do these Krabbies, but Kingler isn't exactly the most demanded Pokemon in PokeMMO, so I would try to avoid stuff like that. You can also change stats around, do things like Lonely Nature or Naughty if you're looking for more of a budget, or if you want to up the ante, you can look for like really, really powerful or really, really good Pokemon, things like double 31 and 20 plus. But usually if you're a new player, I don't recommend stuff like this because you don't really have the capital for it yet, but technically you could look for stuff like this. Look for a Jolly Nature perfect IV'd Pokemon like this. Maybe you want to look for a certain species like Gibbles, right, and buy these for this price and train them up. Usually training Pokemon is profitable almost no matter what you do, but you do want to double check your prices before you do something. Now, what I mean when I say double check your prices is just check what the Pokemon costs when it's untrained versus when it's trained. A good example is something like a Scyther. Scyther is a pretty high demand Pokemon for multiple reasons. Number one, Scyther is like decent in NU, but it's also really, really good as a Scizor in OU. So I would check something like this Scyther. It's obviously really expensive for just a 20 plus Pokemon, but let's say this Scyther is 70k. What happens if I were to head over to EVs, type in 252 EVs and make it level 50, and then check out Scyther in Scizor. So there's one that's much better than mine. We can see Scizor 190k. So I feel pretty comfortable in saying you could buy that one for 70k, EV and XP train it, and sell it for at least 150k as a Scizor. And the metal coat would cost like 5k or something like that. They're not that expensive. You go ahead and evolve it. So yeah, even less than that. So you can almost always, it's pretty hard to go wrong when it comes to EV training, XP training Pokemon for profit, but finding the best Pokemon, that's a big part of the skill gap, is finding what are the best Pokemon, what have the best profit margins, and you can straight up just check what Pokemon have those margins on the GTL. It takes time and energy and a little bit of game knowledge, but anybody can check. Anybody can go around like, oh, a Smeargle with 25 plus attack and speed. We don't even need defenses. Like people need, let me think, I'm a new player. What did I buy recently? Oh, recently I bought a catching Smeargle. Okay, what Smeargle did I look for? I looked for a 25 plus with adamant, right? Okay, well, a Smeargle with those stats, let's go actually cheaper. Let's do 20 plus, right? A Smeargle with 20 plus in those stats, it's looking around 30k, 50k, stuff like that. What if I were to EV train it and then also level it to 100? Now that would take a lot longer, but let's see. Let's see if we buy a Smeargle like that for, what's the price again? I have to go back really quick, excuse me. So we buy a Smeargle for 50k, right? We buy a Smeargle for 50k. What could we sell it for at level 100? Where's the level? Sorry, excuse me as I navigate the new. There's so many advanced search functions in the UI. Here we go. Let's say I EV train and XP train this Pokemon. Well, I bought it for 50k. Now I can sell it for 170k, 200k. Better IVs, 220k. EV training and XP training Pokemon is the definition of time and effort equals result. It's hard to not make money when you're doing this. Now, the money per hour will drastically depend based on what Pokemon you're training, how efficient you're training, and how you're training. I have many method guides and videos showing off different Pokemon to XP train and EV train for profit. So I'm not going to get into all the nitty gritty here as I'm trying to make this more of a quick guide for new players. But if you want more details, I definitely recommend, Googling EV training, XP training, Pokemon for profit, PokeMMO. I have many videos showing off this process many times, usually making anywhere from 150,000 Pokeyen to 300k per hour, depending on the Pokemon and the market at the given time. What Pokemon is best to EV training, XP train for profit is going to drastically change depending on the market, depending on the timing. Also, if you don't know how to EV train or XP train, I have guides on those as well, which will be linked in the description. Money making method number 3 that I recommend for new players, which is one of my favorites and one of the best to do, I think, from scratch. It's the most consistent moneymaker, or one of the most consistent in PokeMMO. This is Ditto farming, or Ditto box farming, which is fantastic because if you don't know, Dittos are expensive right now in PokeMMO. I'm talking a basic Ditto with no good IVs is 5,000 Pokeyen minimum. Now, don't sell them on the GTL. That is the big tip for beginners. Do not sell them on the GTL. You're wasting about 500 to 1,000 Pokeyen per Ditto when you sell them on the GTL because of the listing fee. I strongly recommend catching a box of Dittos, aka 60 Dittos, and then trading them to another player via my Discord, via the forums, trade chat. Find some sort of social network in PokeMMO where you can sell Ditto boxes to players. There are an absolute abundance. There's so much demand for Ditto boxes. There's never enough supply for Ditto boxes. A Ditto box right now will fetch a price somewhere of around 200 to 300,000 Pokeyen. 280 to 300,000 Pokeyen for just a box of bad Dittos, aka shit Dittos, aka shittos. And any good IV Dittos you catch, any 1x31s, you usually want to sell on the GTL separately. Especially keep an eye out for things like Dittos that are 1x31 attack with an adamant or like a jolly nature. Those can often go for a decent bit more. Look at that, 26,000 Pokeyen for 31 attack adamant versus 31 attack just being a measly 6k. Quick rule of thumb, when you have a 31 attack IV Ditto, you're looking for natures like Adamant or Jolly. Those are pretty much the two. And then if you have a 31 special attack Ditto, you're looking for things like Modest or Timid. These are those natures that go along with it. There you go, 30k. The natures that go alongside the IV that match up very well. Ooh, some cheap Timid Dittos here. But let me show you how to actually catch Dittos. First things first, you do need Hoenn Complete. So we are over here in Phalabar Town. This money making method is in Hoenn. The first one was in Sinnoh, and the second one, EV training, XP training, really can be done anywhere. I'm going to be using a very basic strategy today. I'm going to be using Smeargle with safety goggles. Now, you can use a few different things here. There are so many Ditto hunting methods right now that work effectively, and everyone's kind of just fighting over what's the best one. I strongly encourage you to just find the one that you enjoy, the one that works the best for you, and go for it. You can do things like assist. I use personally most of the time assist Smeargle, and I'll show you guys that strategy here in a quick second, but I think this is the best beginner method, is just using a Smeargle with false swipe, spore, and safety goggles. Now, I do recommend having another Pokemon in the back that has a way to KO horde Pokemon in case you randomly get a shiny Whismur or Loudred in a horde. You need a Pokemon to be able to take care of it. So if you have Hoenn done, you head over to Phalabar Town, you head inside this cave, and then you find yourself here at Desert Underpass. You can see how many people are farming here. This is one of the most popular farming spots in PokeMMO, and there's like a 60% chance, I believe, to encounter Ditto here. This spot is probably the best in my opinion. There are other spots, but for the sake of this video, let's just focus on this spot. You want to go ahead and get into a Ditto battle. You want to go ahead and go for a false swipe into a spore and to a dust ball. Now, if you want to be hyper efficient, what you can do is I recommend using dust balls. We have safety goggles for that exact reason. Safety goggles is kind of an expensive item. I think it costs like 80k or so. It's not super cheap, but you could always sell it back after you're done with Ditto farming. Or if you decide you don't like it, you could sell it back and, you lose maybe like 5k or something like that. You want to use dust balls because they're the best ball at the moment for catching Dittos, at least via this strategy. Obviously, certain strategies use other things, but you eventually want to switch over to repeat balls. Dust balls have a 2.5 times catch rate when inside of a cave. So you have about, I believe, a 65-70% chance to catch the Ditto. It's decent, but it's not amazing. It's gotten a lot harder since the netball nerf, but that is a good thing for the economy and has been a little bit. Hopefully we see some more nerfs around that. Wink, wink. Maybe nerf alphas. Wink, wink. But what you want to do, what I recommend, is catch 15 Dittos in a row, because then you want to switch to repeat balls. Repeat balls will save you 100 Pokeyen per ball thrown, I believe. It's not anything amazing, but it's significant enough to where it's worth it. This Ditto actually has a metal powder. This is kind of rare-ish. A metal powder to where he actually, because my Smeargle is low attack because it's Calm Nature. I'm doing this with speaking of like what Smeargle you need for this, look at this. You don't need a very good Smeargle. My Smeargle is terrible for this. And it's still going to work just fine. I'm going to double false swipe this since my Smeargle is so bad, and since he has a metal powder, which is going to raise his defense stat. But you want to catch 15 Dittos in a row. And if you catch a Whismur or you do anything like that, it's going to interrupt this chain. With repeat balls in PokeMMO, if you catch 15 of the same Pokemon in a row, it's going to raise its catch rate up to 2.5 times, which is the exact same catch rate as Dust Ball. Let's head over to our Pokeballs. Dust Ball is 2.5 times, and it costs 1,350 Pokeyen. That's kind of expensive. Repeat balls cost 1,250, so it's 100 Pokeyen cheaper to use repeat balls after you catch the first 15. I do not recommend using repeat balls until you catch 15 Dittos in a row, but if you're a Ditto farmer, you're probably going to be here for a while, so it's good to catch 15 and then switch over to repeat balls. That's the False Swipe Spore Safety Goggles strategy. It's really simple, and anybody can really jump into that with a Smeargle and Safety Goggles, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the Assist strategy as well. I like this one. I think it is slightly more optimal personally, because it just allows you to have more PP on your assist, I believe, versus Spore. Yeah, 15 allows you to stay in the cave longer, and it's just a little bit cleaner and a little bit more AFK in my opinion. But it's also a lot more specific. So for example, for this strategy, we can only have this Smeargle in our party as well as this Parasect. This Parasect has Dig and it has Spore. What's going to happen here is I'm going to go false swipe the opposing Ditto, and then I'm going to click Assist. That Assist is always going to grab Spore as long as your Parasect only knows these two moves, or your whatever Pokemon you have, right? You have to have a Pokemon in the back that knows Spore. I really recommend Parasect. Spore, and then the Dig is just there to dig out of the cave, and Assist cannot grab Dig. I assume it's because it's a 2-turn move, but I don't know exactly why, honestly. You can use these guys with gray hair to go ahead and actually delete moves. If you want to forget a move, to delete moves down on your Parasect to get it to 2 moves. If you have any other moves on your Parasect, Assist could grab them, and it ruins the whole strategy. Whenever you catch Dittos with this strategy, it's going to not grab Transform either. Assist cannot grab Transform, which is something important to know. It actually switched. There's so many people farming on channel 1. It's full as soon as I got on the cave, and it switched me to channel 6. Once again, to show you how popular this strategy is. Now, you also might have noticed, since the Pokeballs are so expensive for this method, you're not just making 5,000 Pokeyen pure profit per Ditto. It's not, it's not as beautiful as it seems, but it's still quite good. You're making at least usually 3,000 Pokeyen profit when you catch the Dittos. That is after the fees of everything, the listing fees, the, Pokeball fees, everything like that. Watch me, you Assist here and go grab Spore. You're usually getting at least 3,000 Pokeyen, and once you catch like 2 times 31 Dittos that are worth 40k a piece, or those 1 times 31 nature Dittos, that's where you're really in the profit. Ditto farming is usually around 200,000 Pokeyen per hour, but it's so consistent is one of the biggest positives of it. It's so consistent. The demand for Ditto boxes is so high, and it's just really good, guaranteed solid Pokeyen for new players, which is what you need. You don't want to be waiting for things to sell. When you're a new player, it's difficult to wait for things to sell. You need that Pokeyen back faster than ever, more than ever, to continue to make more Pokeyen, right? So when you're a new player, it's nice to do these methods that just earn you direct Pokeyen as quickly as possible. And then you can use that Pokeyen to make more Pokeyen, which is what PokeMMO is all about. Now, I got all my Dittos here, all 4 of them, on the first Dust Ball. I feel like I've had pretty good luck here. I think the catch rate is supposed to be like 65%, but I anecdotally seem to perform a lot better than that. Maybe you guys perform better as well. Let me know in the comments how often your Dittos break out of your balls. But that should be pretty much it for Ditto farming. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comments, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. All right, and now it is time for the creme de la creme of beginner money-making methods. The beginner money-making methods that I used personally during a challenge back in October of 2024, where I went from 0 Pokeyen to 20 million Pokeyen within 20 to 30 days or so in preparation for the Halloween event, and I used these methods every single day. This is trainer reruns and the beginner gym rerun. So it's two strategies combined in one for this slot. I will have full in-depth guides for these two methods linked in the description because they're too much to explain here in one video. But essentially, the trainer rerun will make you around 180 to 220,000 Pokeyen per hour, depending on how many regions you have done. Now, you need Sinnoh done. Sinnoh is the go-to strat for trainer reruns. If you have Sinnoh complete, congratulations, you are prepped and primed for trainer reruns, as long as you also get a high-level Cloyster. You want a level 100 Cloyster, Lonely, Naughty, Adamant, any plus attack nature, 252 attack EVs, 252 speed, and then 25 plus attack and speed is fine. You don't need the double 31s. Just 25 plus in those stats will do plenty. And then Icicle Spear, preferably PP maxed, and then with a choice band. And if you just run around trainers in Sinnoh, there's a full guide, a full route that I strongly recommend you follow. You pop an amulet coin, you run around, you fight the trainers that I fight in that video, and you make some of the easiest 200,000 Pokeyen per hour you'll ever make. You literally just sit there spamming Icicle Spear. It's awesome. I love it. You can do those every 6 hours as well. So if you want to do those twice a day and make 400k Pokeyen within 2 hours of work every day, it's super easy, super consistent. Definitely recommend it. And it's pure yen. The best thing about these two methods I'm about to show you is that they're pure yen. You don't even you don't have to wait for someone to buy your box. You don't have to wait for your items to sell. This is the quickest, biggest turnaround Pokeyen you can get in PokeMMO. The trainers themselves are paying you the Pokeyen. Next up is the beginner gym rerun strategy. This one requires at least Unova done, and then the more regions you have done, the better. So I recommend like Unova, Kanto, Hoenn is probably the best combo. Maybe like Unova, Kanto. Yeah, probably Hoenn. Maybe Sinnoh is nice, but like honestly, whatever combination you have, you can kind of change your route. The guide for this will be linked in the description in more details, but this comes down to, it's kind of similar to trainer reruns, but all of the fights are going to be double battles. And what you need is a sacrificial Tailwind Cottony, or you could use a Tailwind Prankster Murkrow. You do need Prankster. Prankster is a requirement in this slot. So I recommend some sort of Tailwind, Prankster, Cottony, Whimsicott, Murkrow, really into Pokemon, and then a Drought Torkoal. This guy is going to set up Tailwind and then let himself be killed. This guy is going to set up Sun and then let himself be killed or explode on your opponent to make sure he gets killed. And then you'll bring in these two Typhlosions. They will spam Eruption. These guys do need to be plus special attack nature, whether it's modest, mild, or rash. This team is a bit to build, but it can be done for cheap. I've built this team for under 100,000 Pokeyen in the past. I've done videos doing that. If you want to just buy it outright and get into your gym run immediately without having to EV train or XP train, that can be really good and save you the time. That's going to cost you about 200 to 400,000 Pokeyen. So maybe you want to do some other money making methods before getting to this one, but you want to get to this. Gym reruns. I think gym reruns are one of the most, it's the money-making method that impacts people the most. This is the money-making method where if you start doing one gym rerun a day, your account progress will just skyrocket to the moon. When you start making 200, 300, 400,000 Pokeyen for 1 hour of work every morning, you wake up, you do your gym rerun, and then you go do whatever you want to do in PokeMMO. You start seeing so much progress so quickly. It is a marathon, not a sprint. Just make sure to just do your gym run every day or whatever days you can, whatever days you enjoy. If you enjoy it five times a week, more power to you. 7, 4, 3, 2, 2, whatever makes you happy. Do whatever many gym runs you can. You'll see a lot of progress very, very quickly. These Typhlosions do need to be plus special attack nature, EV trained in 2v2 Spatak, 2v2 speed pretty easily, and then I really do recommend 25 plus on the special attack. You really need 25 plus on the Spatak. The speed can kind of be 20 plus, but I would go 20, 25 plus. 25 plus both on special attack and speed. The other stats are irrelevant. And then Eruption PP matched. Please PP match your Eruptions. I super recommend it. Flamethrower backup is nice. You can have cut, strength, certain HMs here. It's kind of whatever. And then either a Fly Ocarina or a Pokemon with Fly in the back during your party, or a Fly, or the Murkrow to have your Fly slot there as well with the Prankster Tailwind setter. Now, it's important that you want these mons to be low level. I have a whole guide on this. I don't want to overstep into this, but please go check out that guide. It's a little complex, but you'll pick it up faster than you realize. Gym reruns and trainer reruns, you'll start building the muscle memory very quickly if you do these every morning when you wake up, or do these when you jump on PokeMMO. Now, that is it for the main beginner money-making methods I wanted to talk about today, but I do have one quick honorable mention. This honorable mention that I want to talk about is a super low requirement money-making method over in Hoenn to the northeast of Rustboro City. All you need for this is you can even have a low-level catching Pokemon. Any catching Pokemon with False Swipe, you don't even really need Spore for this, but any Pokemon with False Swipe, you want to head over here to Route 116 and look for Nincadas. Nincadas have a really good base price in PokeMMO because shiny hunters need them to shiny hunt for Shedinja. So, as you can see, the cheapest one's 2K, but the next cheapest one's 3,400. Usually, the price of any shitty Nincada is 3,000 Pokeyen. 3,000 Pokeyen just for catching Nincadas. And very similarly to Dittos, what I recommend you do is catch a box of Nincadas and then sell them to a different player. Sell them to a player for 3,000 Pokeyen, maybe 2,800 per Nincada, and you'll make more profit doing that versus just listing them on the GTL and eating that listing fee. And since you only need to false swipe and Pokeball these, the cost is very low to get into this farming method, as well as the cost is very low with, your profits are high. If you catch any, 2x31 attack, or 2x31 IVs or 1x31 IVs, you probably want to sell those for, their IVs and not just sell them as any bad Nincada, but you want to just sit here, false swipe the Nincada. They'll just go for something stupid like a Harden, of course, and then you just Pokeball and you just sell them off. It's really, really quite simple. One of the easiest, also really low requirements, also really beginner friendly, probably the most beginner friendly money-making method on this list. It's one of the few Pokemon I would say you can still catch for profit, things like Nincada, things like Ditto, but Nincada requires even less than Ditto. You don't even have to have the Hoenn region done to come do this. Bam, that's 3K, 2K profit right there. If I go sell this as a box, yeah, it cost me 200 Pokeyen for the Pokeball, but bam, that's 3K right there. That adds up very quickly. You could also catch the Abras here if you want. Abras with Synchronize. This is totally off topic of the video, but information is important, so I hope you guys find this helpful. Certain natured Synchronize Abras have some really good value. Things like Synchronize Adamant Abra. The cheapest one is 20K. If you go to like Kadabra, Alakaz, there's not even any on the, there's not even any. There's not even any. People need the cheapest synchronized adamant Pokemon, let alone Abra, on the GTL is 15,000 Pokeyen. People need synchronized Pokemon for other money-making methods, for catch events, for tons of other activities in the game. So catching Abras while you're here, those you'll have to probably either Spore into Great Ball or just Great Ball off the bat. I recommend Spore into Great Ball because otherwise they will try to teleport away from you. Those you can catch while you're here as well, but they're not really as common as Nincadas. Nincadas are pretty common at this location from my understanding. I'm not seeing too many right now, but they are common here. So you can catch a fair amount of Nincadas. I've tested this method in the past, and I've made anywhere from about 180,000 to 280,000 Pokeyen per hour. All right, but that is actually and truly the final money-making method I wanted to discuss today. This video ended up being a little more long-winded than I intended, but I like to yap about PokeMMO. I just love this game so much, and I hope the extra information was helpful and not too overwhelming. If it was, let me know. Feedback, good critique, good polite comments saying, hey, you know what, I think you over-explained this and it kind of overwhelmed me. I'd prefer a more hyper beginner-focused video. So if that's you, don't be afraid to let me know. Let me know. Give me your feedback in the comments. I ask you to do it kindly. I am a human just as you are, and I'm just trying my best to make videos and content about a game that I love so much. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy. Like it if you enjoyed it. Dislike if not. That's totally okay. Subscribe to the channel for daily PokeMMO videos. I do upload every single day, as well as I stream Monday through Thursday on Twitch at 12 p.m. ET. My Discord's down below to join a really awesome community there who also loves this game. And if you want to go above and beyond and support the content, YouTube memberships, Twitch Primes, Twitch subs, and PayPal/Venmo donations really do allow me to be here. The fan funding, the fan support that I get allows me to make all these guides and allows me to do this. So thank you guys to the ends of the earth for all of that. I couldn't be here without you. Have fun, play PokeMMO, enjoy yourself, have a great day. I'll see you guys later. Peace, Reno. Yo, Patrouski here, and I wanted to thank you personally for watching the video until the very end. I really, really appreciate that. And if your name is on this list, thank you to the moon and back because you allow me to even make these videos by supporting the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.